Good morning, basketball fans. Welcome to another edition and another season of the Upstate Hoops Podcast and another season of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball, another winter of coverage here on FingerLakes1.com and our season premiere of the Upstate Hoops Podcast. I'm Jim Sinicropi here inside the FingerLakes1.com studios on the third floor of the North Park building in Seneca Falls, New York. We're live on Sunday, November 18th, 2018. And we got a full episode for you here. The new season is upon us. Practices are underway. The first games are about, 9 days away here. And there's some potentially special teams expected to play for a sectional title and maybe beyond from the Wayne Finger Lakes leagues that we cover. We're going to talk about those teams. There's some teams that could surprise and some teams that are in rebuilding mode. We're going to try to touch on them all here in the next hour. We'll fill you in on the season's, our plans for our live webcasting games this year. Something a little bit different this year that I'll share with you later on. We'll release our preseason power rankings for the boys and girls. And we're also going to try to get more interactive on this show this season. So I'll tell you a little bit about that as well. The Upstate Hoops Podcast and all of our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is once again brought to you thanks to the support of Generations Bank, with locations in Auburn, Farmington, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. They're online at mygenbank.com. And by Little John Orthodontics. Dr. Rod Littlejohn and Dr. Liz Barbie are proud to support area high school athletes. Check out Dr. Rod and Dr. Liz online at littlejohnortho.com. And Bill Cram Chevrolet, where all roads lead to Bill Cram Chevrolet on 5 and 20 between Seneca Falls and Waterloo. Browse their full inventory of new and used vehicles at billcramchevrolet.com. So great to have our big three sponsors sign up for another season. We have other sponsors on board where we've been gearing up for the past month or so for the season, and it's finally here. One thing that's new this season here on the Upstate Hoops Podcast would be our new call-in system. What we want to have you do is call in during the week and leave a message that we can play back on the show. It might be a question about players or teams in the Wayne Finger Lakes. It might be a prediction on a big game that week. It might just be comments on something that you heard me say on this podcast or heard some of our guests talk about, and then we'll play those back during the podcast as part of the show. So to do that, the number is 1-866-315-FLX1. So that's 866-315-3591, and then you hit 803 to leave a message for the Upstate Hoops Podcast. And like I said, we will play those back on the air. So, a lot to get to, so I should probably jump right into it. And as I mentioned off the top, there are some teams that are poised to make a historic run potentially this season, do something that they'll remember forever. Sectional title contenders, maybe beyond, state Final Four, state champions. So we're going to start off with those teams, and I think one of the biggest stories this season coming up here is going to be the Mid-Lakes girls program. And Coach Nate Rich, they went to the state semifinals last year in Class B. It was the most historic season in Mid-Lakes history. Only one loss all season long, and that was in the state semifinal. They're Class B sectional champs for the first time since the 1970s, defeating Bath Haverling in Rush Henrietta in a game that you listen to on FingerLakes1.com, and then we played the video replay for you so that you can watch that game right now if you want, which is another great thing about what we do. We bring you the games live, and then they are archived for posterity on YouTube and at FingerLakes1.tv. Wonder how many times Mid-Lakes fans have gone back and watched that Bath Haverling game. So why Mid-Lakes girls? Well, they return almost everybody from that team. I shouldn't say that because that's kind of a insult to Jordan Noya and Claire DeBouver, who were great guards for that team, especially Jordan Noya. I think she was really underrated, maybe, is her importance to that team. So we might find that out. They might miss her. But Coach Nate Rich has the best player in the Wayne Finger Lakes, maybe all of Section 5 for the girls, in Elena Forbes. She seems like she's been up there on varsity forever, scoring points and getting steals, and really one of the most exciting girls players that you'll see play. She's about to enter her senior season, and I'm sure that Mid-Lakes fans are excited to see how far she can lead this team. And, of course, she won't be alone. They return a lot of other key pieces from last year. Carol Walker was a freshman last year. She certainly didn't play like a freshman during that run. So now she's back as a sophomore, and she's joined by Macy Kisner, who will be in her senior year, and Sydney Pasalacqua, also in her senior year. And look for the emergence of a girl named Madison Nurse, who should contribute to this team coming up from JVs last year. So it's one of those situations where you have this little window. And I think for Mid-Lakes, that window opened last year in December when they kept winning games and realized how much better they were than probably all the other teams in the Finger Lakes East. And now as Elena Forbes enters her senior year, another year for that window to really capitalize on it. And, hey, if you get to the state, if you win a sectional title and you go to the state Final Four, it's tough to say that you can do much better than that. It's really tough to enter the season and say our goal is to win a state championship. But, having gone to the state Final Four last year, it's I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're talking about in the locker room after Mid-Lakes girls practices is a state title. But a long way to go between now and then. And they are certainly one of the teams that we're going to be following closely all season long here on Finger Lakes 1. So another team of destiny, potentially. Another team that has done something in recent years that hasn't happened at their school. Well, actually, for this team, it hadn't ever happened for their school until 2 years ago when the Wayne Eagle boys captured the sectional title, beating Wilson in Fairport. And then they backed it up last year, winning another sectional title. So they're coming off back-to-back Section 5 Class A2 championships. And they went 20-4 last season. They beat Northeast Douglas Prep 57-54 for their second straight sectional title. Both years, though, they run into Irondequoit in the state play-in round, and for the second straight year, that's where their season ended. But much like Mid-Lakes, they bring their core back, almost everybody. Biggest loss, of course, is the fresh Prince of Ontario, Braden Zanelovic, who will graduate. But if you remember, he was hurt last year for much of their season, and they were fine. They still won the Finger Lakes East, and then he joined them late in the season and for that second sectional title. So it is a loss of Zanelovic, but this Wayne team has had this core of players, call them the Big Three, although I think that there's more than just the Big Three on this team. But Coach Bill Thompson brings back Logan Blankenberg. He's a Player of the Year candidate, along with maybe Justice Smith at Lyons, if you're looking at who the best player on the boys' side is in the Wayne Finger Lakes. Logan Blankenberg, a potential All-Greater Rochester guy. He's got size. He plays inside and out. Incredible shooter from long range. I don't think he has range. I think if he's on the offensive side of half court, that's his range. And I know the kid works really hard, plays a lot of AAU, high-level AAU basketball. And I mentioned Justice Smith. I think they might be on the same AAU team. So I expect him to be even better this year. He's had some injury issues over the past couple years as well. I mean, they lost to Minders last year at home in a game that Blankenberg didn't play. So, yeah, it should be a great season for Logan Blankenberg. And he's joined by Big Country, Nick Carmichael, who is a throwback era big guy. He's got an amazing drop step. He works hard. He if you give him the ball on the block, it's gonna find the bottom of the basket. And again, this is their senior year, Carmichael and Blankenberg. So we expect them to be even better. And both these guys are guys that got the potential to play at the next level. And then, of course, to round out that big three is the coach's son, Billy Thompson, the point guard, who just signed his national letter of intent to play lacrosse at Le Moyne. So you know he's a next-level athlete. And those guys have been playing together for so long. They've got 2 sectional titles under their belt already, and I think I know that anything less than a third would be a huge disappointment. But also state title aspirations. It's frustrating being up there in Class A2 when they ran into that juggernaut of Irondequoit. It might happen again, but I know that they certainly have their eyes set on 3 straight sectional titles, which would be the most amazing run any group's had at Wayne Central High School in the history of the school since they merged, late 60s, early 70s, where they merged Ontario and Walworth and merged into Wayne High School. So it's not just the big 3, too. That's a thing. Logan Helgado is a senior this year, and I expect him to have a bigger role, picking up some of the scoring slack left behind by the Fresh Prince of Ontario as he graduates. And they bring a lot of size, too, in Jaden Burley, Justin Petrowski, and Brandon Nowak. They're deep. The program's strong. I know there's more coming in behind them. I mean, obviously last year when they lose these guys to graduation, they won't be as dominant, but they also won't fall off too much. Really built something special up there in Wayne. So sticking with the boys, another team of destiny is the Lyons. It's Justice Smith's senior year. He's probably been the player that we have followed the closest over the past 4 years here of our coverage here at FingerLakes1.com. We love to go to the Atwood. We love those Lions-Clyde rivalries. And, we remember, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but maybe it was 5 years ago that it was Damon Hunter leading the Lions to the state Final Four in Glens Falls and that incredible run. And then as soon as he stepped out, all of a sudden we saw this freshman, Justice Smith, and we were like, wow, this kid's going to be really good. We've always pointed out the flaws in his game, though. And last year, I think he eliminated some of those flaws or has made such progress. He's developed more physically. He's improved his outside shot. He's improved his defense. And, got a big monkey off his back, beating Clyde last year, which he had never done. But then winning that sectional title against Perry, 63-58 to win the C2 title before losing to North Star Christian. Now, they'll play North Star Christian in December in the Geneva tournament, and that may be a game that you'll watch live on FingerLakes1.com. I think it's one of the best games of the year where they'll get that rematch from that Class C playing game against North Star and the Brown brothers. And there are changes, though, at Lyons. And the biggest change is Coach Zach Young is now the athletic director at Weedsport. And I know that was a tough decision. He made the right decision professionally, but to coach these guys and build that program up as he has for the past several years, to have to kind of step away right at this point where it's culminated to, Justice's senior year had to be tough. But Dean Schott Jr. takes over the program. He was on the bench and knows all these kids, one of the best players in Lions history. So that's a change. We'll have to see what actually changes when they hit the court. But a new coach, and I have heard that Dean Schott Sr., one of the most legendary coaches in Lions history, is going to be on the bench this winter too and helping out with that program. So It can't be a bad thing to have a couple of Lyons legends involved in that program, but the expectations are going to be high, and I think Lyons will cruise through Wayne County and win that league. Although, as you'll see later on, I think there's a couple teams that might be a little better than we thought in Wayne County this year. But anything less than another Wayne County title for Lyons this year would be a big disappointment. And anything less than a sectional title. And I know that they're talking breezing through sectionals and getting to states and getting down to Binghamton for the state Final Four. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Every season brings new challenges, and one of the weaknesses with this Lions team is lack of size and rebounding. They lose Big Jordan Harris, was one of my favorite players to cover last year, did a lot of the dirty work down low. Seth Van Buskirk was a big body. He's gone. So they'll be looking to guys like Benji Bad Company Kemp, to pull down rebounds. Well, he'll be a little undersized, maybe not in Wayne County, but when they step out of Wayne County and when they get into those sectional games and they get beyond sectionals, if they have aspirations to advance, that lack of size could be exposed, and Benji Kemp's going to have to play big. Luscious Lucas Lucier is another guy that can help on the boards and defensively. But what Lyons brings to the table beyond Justice Smith would be his younger brother, Justin Smith. Tootie Smith, they call him. Now, Tootie is entering his sophomore year, and last year he didn't look like a freshman. He made a play early on at the Blue Cross Arena, getting that championship game against Perry. That just think, man, how could a freshman have that much confidence in himself to come out in a game like that, on a stage like that, and perform the way he did. So he should be better. He's bigger physically, too, starting to look almost a little more like Justice in terms of the size. And Justice got bigger, too, if you can believe that. And then, of course, you got David Weaver. He'll be a senior, one of the best three-pointers in Wayne County, although you wouldn't know by watching the shot, but if you watch the ball after it leaves his hands, it usually goes in. So this is another team that returns, their best players. And Horace Betts is a name you should know. He'll be a sophomore next year, but he brings some size and will be it could be a breakout type of year for him. I think definitely one more year into it when Justice graduates and there's a lot more shots and a lot more touches available, that you look at a guy like Horace Betts to step in along with Justin Smith. And Aaron Romero's back too, which this team doesn't necessarily have a true point guard. Justice runs the point. He's the biggest point guard you'll see in the Wayne Finger Lakes, but maybe Aaron Romero can, in his senior campaign, handle the ball so Justice can play off the ball a little bit. It'll be different because, as I mentioned, different coaches. So we'll see what changes there with Lyons this year. One thing that I was disappointed to hear in this Lyons team is that Correll Kelly won't be back. And again, this is nothing official. This is what I hear through my sources around the Wayne Finger Lakes, is that he's planning to run indoor track this winter and won't be with the team. So Special K Correll Kelly, who's can provide an offensive spark for that team. I think they'll miss him for sure if that is the case and he doesn't play. So one more team of destiny. One more team that I think is a sectional favorite. Should have aspirations beyond the sectional title, should win their league. Any guesses as to the team that I'm thinking about here? Well, it's the South Seneca Lady Falcons and Coach Heather Mott. They look for their fourth straight sectional title. Remember, they beat Red Jacket last year at Rush Henrietta to win the Class C2 title. 4 straight times. I mean, they're are not many programs in all of Section 5 that win 4 straight sectional titles. And, Emily Lavarnway is a name you might remember, such a big athletic center for Coach Mott. That group with Kelsey Shawless and Bailey Mingus, and they were really a special group. But then when Kelsey and Emily graduated 2 years ago, you thought, well, that was a nice run for South Seneca. They'll probably have to rebuild. But nope. They won the sectional title. They lost in the playing game, 1 game short of the Final Four, which would have been their 3rd straight trip to the Final Four. So it's South Seneca for girls basketball. It's becoming commonplace to win sectional titles, to look at the calendar and block off the weekend of the state Final Four at Hudson Valley if you're a fan or parent of this program, because it's becoming pretty much commonplace. And I think they can get back there again this year to the state Final Four. And why? Well, the biggest loss for Coach Mott would be Skylar Shawless. But in South Seneca, one Shawless exits, another Shawless steps up. That's kind of how it's been. And Logan Shawless, who really emerged during the sectional run for South Seneca last year as a freshman, now enters her sophomore year. And when you grow up playing against Kelsey and Skylar in practices and scrimmages and in the driveway and other sports as well, they were great soccer players too, Kelsey and Skylar. That you just get tougher, and potentially Logan could be the best of the bunch when it's all said and done. I mean, really well-rounded game. And really one thing I noticed about her last year as a freshman was her ability. She made a play, I think it might have been against Notre Dame Batavia. It was somewhere in that sectional run or maybe post-sectional title where she was on a fast break, and I saw her take it with her right hand, cross over, and drive to the right side of the lane to create more space for Jenna McDonald, who she bounced the ball to, who laid it in wide open. And just like that kind of court awareness, I think Logan Shawless is going to have a special year, and it should continue for her junior and senior year as well. Now, is she going to be like the leader of this team? I don't know, because there's other candidates, and one of my favorite players is Jenna McDonald. Tough as nails, a lot of passion, a lot of heart, and equally well-rounded. Her and Logan are, in a way, kind of interchangeable when you watch her play. Jenna McDonald's court awareness and basketball sense really helps too on the defensive end. You could see her anticipate passing lanes and get steals that spark something in transition. She can beat her girl one-on-one off the dribble. She can shoot the three. She's really scrappy. So along with Logan, that's a nice 1-2 punch. But gotta say, last year, Jade Parsons really stepped up and emerged after playing behind Lavarnway for her freshman and sophomore year, in the middle of that South Seneca offense and defense. Jade Parsons, in a league that has a lot of big girls in the Finger Lakes West, is probably the best all around. She really developed some post moves, a nice shooting touch. Jade Parsons, obviously a huge part of this team. And then, how about 4 Fletchers? Avril Fletcher's a senior. But then you got the Fletcher triplets who played last year as freshmen. They're sophomores now, Alyssa, Emma, and Leah. I don't know how Coach Mott keeps track of them. I don't know how our announcing crews are going to keep track of them. But there's 4 Fletchers on the team. So it should be no surprise or shock to see South Seneca Lady Falcons back as sectional champions for the 5th straight year. But there's no guarantee they'll win the Finger Lakes West. And there's certainly no guarantee they'll win sectionals. But those are my 5 teams of destiny this year, the teams that we're really going to be focusing on, who should win early and often and should be right there at the end of the season. I'm talking about the Mid-Lakes girls, the South Seneca girls, the Wayne Eagle boys, and the Lyons boys. But, of course, there's more teams out there, and I think we need to take a look at the next bunch, who I'd call them watch list teams. These are teams that could elevate into that upper echelon of teams. And got to move a little quicker here because we're already almost halfway through the show. But you got the Marcus Whitman boys, 18-4 last year, West champs, lost to North Star Christian in the C1 semis after staying with them in the first half of that game that was played at Bloomfield. A tough draw for Marcus Whitman. I think North Star Christian is going to be A this year. I've heard that. I don't have official classification numbers. They don't actually become official until December, but the talk is that North Star Christian, after starting in D and winning sectional titles and then winning sectional titles in C, is going to leapfrog right over B into A. So good news for all these Wayne Finger Lakes teams in B and C that hope to win sectional titles and have a chance to advance to states. So anyways, yeah, Whitman boys, 18-4 last year, West champs. They lose Ben Stone and Riley McLeod. They're huge losses for Coach Greg O'Connor, but he's built a pretty nice program there. Girls and boys at Marcus Whitman. John Donovan's back, though, the point guard. He'll make all the other players around him better. He's great court sense, all 90 feet, great passer. And I mentioned he'll make these other players better, but who will he make better? Well, last year in sectionals, we really saw a couple of freshmen emerge, and now they're sophomores. Aiden Royston, who is a state cross-country guy, state caliber cross-country, and Ryan Harrod, another sophomore who are going to play big roles as sophomore for the Wildcats. And then you got junior Liam Prendergrass. He's 6'5", and I haven't seen him yet this year. He may have grown, but certainly brings a lot of size in the Finger Lakes West. Seth Benedict's back as a junior, so Greg O'Connor's Whitman boys should be looking tough this year. They're my favorites to win the West. It's no guarantee, though. The West should be highly competitive this year. Maybe the only league in all the boys and girls Wayne Finger Lakes leagues that is truly competitive. That will remain to be seen. The Finger Lakes East, I mentioned, it might be the Wayne Eagles running away with it. Well, one team who might surprise and challenge them would be the Newark Reds. It's not usual that you talk about the Newark Reds as surprising. They're a great program year in and year out, one of the class of Section 5 programs. But last year, 7-14 in Coach Henry Caparis' first year. And I got to think that's some sort of an aberration. The big treat, Tyler Clements, is gone. I know the program was hurt when Ben Coles decided to focus on baseball. He's off at the University of Maryland now. Didn't play his senior year with the basketball team. He was always a key cog to everything that they did there. But bad year last year, 7-14, lost to Wellsville in the first round of the Class B sectional playoffs. But they'll surprise this year with their length and athleticism. They're going to be bigger and more athletic than people remember from last year. And I want you to remember this name right now, Mason Vandermortel. He's going to emerge and be a potential Fab 5 player here for the Newark Reds. I hear he's dunking off of 2 feet in practice. And then don't forget about Jaden Peters. He can shoot it. He's 6'2". He's big. Maybe one of the better shooters in the Finger Lakes East. Kyle Martinez is back. They had a great JV team last year as well. I really think this is going to be a big bounce-back year for the Newark Reds. And they could be just one upset away, potentially, from contending with Wayne for that championship. And I think there's going to be a B1 and B2 classifications this year. So if that's the case, Newark will likely be in B1 with teams like Waterloo and Geneva, but certainly winnable. Certainly a winnable classification. So we'll see if Newark can bounce back. Speaking about a program that's been bounced back for decades almost, that I think this could be a great year, is the Waterloo boys, the Waterloo Indians. They got a new head coach in Mark Pittifer. Team was 5-16 last year. So how can you go from 5-16 to maybe 16-5? Well, you have Derek Sluka on your team. He's a 6'4", maybe 6'5" this year, Player of the Year candidate. Another Fab 5 potential player. Lefty, he's going to throw some dunks down this year. He's the unquestioned leader of this Waterloo team as a senior, and he's joined by fellow senior Jaquan Lewis. But there's also a trio of juniors who played well as sophomores last year, and Mike Hubbard, Julian Ruiz, and Joel Kraft. And Kraft is 6'3", so he brings a little bit of size too. Question with this Waterloo team, before we get to sectionals or any of that talk, is can they beat Minders for the first time since 2007? I think they can. I think this will be the year where you see Waterloo beat Minders one of the two times they play. And that would be enough to hang your hat on for the whole season as crosstown rivals to have not beaten them in so long. Sticking in the Finger Lakes East, how about the Geneva boys? Also 6-16 last year. Big disappointment for Coach Brian Miller's squad. Can they turn it around this year? Should let you know they're not coming back with their big man, Akeem Hudson, who is playing at a prep school in North Carolina. I don't know why you leave your senior year and go down south. I don't think Hakeem Hudson is a next level player. I mean, he's got a lot of work to do physically and skill wise to get there. Maybe that's what he's looking to do. Borderline D3 player. Won't be back with him. And that's going to hurt because they have one of the best power forwards or front court players in the Wayne Finger Lakes and Reed Patchett. And so Hudson command some attention, take some pressure off of Reed Patchett. But Reed Patchett's that good where, again, Fab 5 player candidate, leader of the team. Geneva loses Adrian Porter, Tyrese Evans, Raheem Holmes, Rashakeem Hudson, but they do return a trio of young guards who played as sophomores last year who should make a big leap, or they're going to have to if Geneva is going to flip that record and compete in the Finger Lakes East. And I think they're going to be B1 for sectionals this year, which will help them. A2 and B1, that'll be a big difference. But those guards, Liam Ryan, Parker Broussard, and Nick Askin. So that's a nice core for Brian Miller to go with Reed Patchett. And then Dante Reed's going to be one of those guys that has to play big to complement Patchett in the absence of Hudson. So new gym in Geneva, too. Debuting their new gym. We can't wait to get there and check it out. And so might be a chance for Geneva to maybe return to the Blue Cross Arena for the first time since those Junior Sims led them to a sectional title 6 years ago, maybe. I'm not good with dates. How about the Minders Academy boys? Nobody lost more than Minders. But at Minders Academy, apparently they, I think I got it back here. Yeah. I can't see it on my board, but I know that at Minders they say they don't rebuild, they reload. I've got some questions about how much reloading they're going to be doing because they're going to need to replace their entire starting five. Quentin Battle, Hunter Haas, Kellen Carher, Devin Anderson, Jake Robinson, Jesse Cabot's gone. They lose 9 seniors in total. From a team that went 19-4 and had a disappointing loss to Greece Odyssey at Marcus Whitman in the Class B semifinals last year after winning the sectional title 2 years ago. But they do bring back Darren Miller, who he's the biggest question mark. He's an amazing athlete. He needs to lead this team. He needs to be one of the best players in the league if this Minders team is going to be good. He needs to be a 16-point 10 rebound guy every night. He needs to win some games by putting the team on his back. The question is he ready to do that? He was never asked to do that before. He never had to. He played behind Jake Mean for several years, and then last year behind Haas and Robinson. He showed flashes a little last year. This year it's going to be his team, and he'll be joined in the front court with Sal the Big Ragu Franzone, and Christian El Perito Torres will also be hoping to contribute to Minders along with Griffin Heron. And what you're going to do is you're going to see a whole new team, Minders fans, when you show up to Arthur L. Baker for this season. You're going to see a whole new team. So we'll see if Coach Korzaneski can pull them together, elevate them. On paper, they don't look like they can compete with Wayne. for that Finger Lakes East title. They don't look like sectional champions either, but Minder's program has been so successful consistently that you can't count them out. They're always going to be sectional contenders. They're always going to be league contenders. So we'll see how they do. We'll see if they can beat Waterloo first and foremost. Sticking with the boys, going to Wayne County. Mentioned it's going to be Lyons looking good in Wayne County. How about the Gananda boys? 14-8 last year. Lost 67-58 in the Class C1 semifinals to an undefeated team, Pembroke. Coach Jeff Thompson loses Steve Heumann and Henry Bush, but Jaden Castrocini's back, and he's a great football player, great athlete. Going to be a big team leader for these guys, along with fellow senior Cole Wright, who can shoot the three. And then for this team to be good and compete with Lyons, or to compete for a C1 title in sectionals, they need their sophomore guard, Andrew Gabbert, to make a big leap. And I think he will. He's a fun kid to watch, good basketball guy, good passer. This will be a fun team to watch in Wayne County this year. They've upset teams too over the past few years. So can they do it again? Can they upset a Lions when they come to Gananda? They're going to need to if they hope to win the Wayne County League this year, because I don't think anybody else in that league is going to beat Lions. How about going out west here for the Honeoye Bulldogs? Last year's surprise, I think. They went all the way to the D1 final in the Blue Cross Arena, lost to Clyde-Savannah, a really good Clyde-Savannah team. They were 14-5 behind Coach Trevor Gage. They lose Max Yale and John Marble. Huge loss. Losses. Both those guys formed the core of the team, worked hard, really were dedicated to the Honeoye program. But Kyle Rudolph should be a dominating force in the Finger Lakes West. Best big guy in the West for the boys. And junior Dom Trippy should pick up the scoring for the Bulldogs. So don't be surprised if the Bulldogs return to the Class D finals this year and compete in that Finger Lakes West boys, which should be highly entertaining. Mentioned Whitman already. Look out for Honeoye as well. How about Bloomfield? Just 10-11 last year, lost to Rochester Academy in the C2 opening round. They lost 50-point man Pat Geithner, but they returned 9 juniors. Coach John Masson will return 9 juniors, including Tanner Kimball and Alex Roach. I think that Bloomfield will be better this year with all the experience that they bring back than even they were last year with Geithner on the team. It's just 9 juniors coming back. They should be competitive in the West. On the girls' side of things, haven't mentioned the Red Jacket girls yet. George Hotchkiss team looks to return to the sectional title game. They had a great season last year. Sydney Close is a senior. Sarah Van Aken's tough. She's got to play big. There's a lot of big girls in the Finger Lakes West, and Red Jacket doesn't necessarily have one of those true big girls, but Sarah Van Aken plays like it in a smaller frame. And the coach's daughter, Olivia Hotchkiss. Red Jacket will battle with South Seneca this year for that West Girls Championship. And then I know they want to get back to the Section 5 title. They don't want South Seneca to win for a 5th straight year. They want their own. So we'll take a look at the Red Jacket girls this year. The Geneva girls, a little down last year, traditionally one of the powerhouses in the Finger Lakes East. Coach Ed Collins brings back Lauren Devaney, Mackenzie Moore, Jada Winfield, and Shanice Coleman. I'd expect these Geneva Lady Panthers to contend and potentially win in the Finger Lakes East. The Palmat girls and Coach Dan Harris, though, might have something to say about that. Katie Smythe and Andra Savage will be tough for the Lady Red Raiders in their senior years. The Red Creek girls, a lot of controversy last year surrounding Isabella Wilbur, suspended in sectionals for potentially tripping a girl. That was where the controversy came, whether it was intentional or not. But then they appealed. It got into court. They were kind of much maligned about taking this high school stuff into courts in the same way that you might see in a professional league when a guy gets suspended and the union appeals and all that stuff. But she did play. She didn't miss any games. They lost. But she's just a sophomore still. She's been playing, I think, since 7th grade on varsity. Red Creek girls will be tough in Wayne County, and Izzy Wilbur should have another great year. The girl makes like 3 half-court shots a season, so we'll see how many she can throw in from beyond midcourt this year. And then the last team from my watch list here would be the Naples girls. Coach Steve Wood brings back probably the biggest competitor for Jade Parsons for the best center in the Finger Lakes West, a dominant double-double girl in Haley Langen. Sarah Glavine is a senior. Faith Glavine's a junior. Autumn Coons is back. This Naples team is very good. If you haven't noticed by now, this Finger Lakes West girls should be highly entertaining, and boys. A lot of the most exciting basketball always comes out of the West. You don't get a lot of sectional championships other than the South Seneca girls out of the West, but you get a lot of exciting basketball, and this year should be no different. So, moving right along here, we got to look at some sleepers. I mentioned the elite teams. I mentioned the next level. Now we're going to go down another tier, and what do I know? You know, the exciting thing is that any of these teams could prove me wrong. But teams to look out for this year that we haven't mentioned yet. The Penn Yan boys are coming off a 17-6 season and a semifinal loss to Livonia. Coach Marty Gibson loses Desmond Badden, Dylan Stape, Cade Kerbo, Austin Lafferty. I mean, why should I even consider him on here as a sleeper with those losses? Well, they had a great JV team last year, and they also bring back Will Rogers, who's a quarterback of their successful football team, good athlete. Connor Fingar's back. So Penn Yan's on my sleeper squad. The HAC boys, 14-7 last year. They were upset in the opening round of the D1 playoffs. Coach Pauliata loses Xavier Rizziel and Rob Dorsey, but Ryan Hilton, don't forget that name, 6'5", one of the better big men in Wayne County, in the Finger Lakes West. And junior Thomas Dorsey's back here for the Wolves. And then how about Clyde-Savannah? Wayne County champs, 1 game short of the state Final Four. Tim Jackson, longtime coach, best dressed coach in Section 5, gone. Darren Preston in. If you don't know who Darren Preston is, he's pretty much a legendary AAU coach who coaches a lot of these guys that I've mentioned on this podcast. He's now gets an opportunity to be a head coach here at a historic program like Clyde. And you know, I think he's gonna build that program. Continue the success upon the success that Coach Jackson's had. But man, they lose Drew Carnevale, Derek Chance, and Marcus Chance, gone. The cupboards are kind of bare, but are they? Cam Chance is back for his sophomore year. Great athlete. Jaden McKinney should be a nice surprise for fans that haven't heard that name before. And Isaiah Lee's back. I hear they got a big kid that didn't play last year who's playing this year. So I can't wait to see what Coach Preston does at Clyde. It's just, big changes. That Clyde Lyons rivalry, Zach Young and Tim Jackson, it's changing. It's now going to be Dean Schott and Darren Preston. So it should be fun. It's always fun, no matter who's on the sideline. The stands will be packed for those Clyde Lions games. Sticking in Wayne County, you got the East Rochester Bombers. You never can count them out. They always seem to get a guy or two that you never heard of that comes in and makes an impact. 14-8 last year, lost in the C1 quarterfinals to North Star Christian by 30 under Coach Patrick Walsh. They lose Matt Cicero, John Lexer, Ben the Young Pope, Elijah Jocks. But they bring back Jaden Nelson, Alex Rands, Austin Mack, and like I said, there's always a new name. So I'm going to wait and see what happens when they hit the court this winter in a couple weeks. The Sodas boys, Kevin Hawk went 11-10 last year, lost to East Rochester in the C1 quarters. They lose Malik Burton and Donnie Knapp, and they bring back a junior duo, though, Lonnie Logans, Marquise Burton. Sodas could be a lot better than I'm giving them credit for here, but I got to see it first. So let's move along here. Waterloo girls under Coach Tim Lincoln lose Logan Castiglione and Lauren Jolly. They bring back Jillian Panic for her junior year. Katie Brown, Kate Jolly, Carrie Jensen. Waterloo girls should be good. Those Waterloo Minders girls games are the girls games. They should be good. Both those games are going to be doubleheaders this year. Waterloo boys, girls, both varsity night doubleheaders. Both of them should be on FingerLakes1.com as well. The Whitman girls have really built a nice program. Coach Bree Parzik loses Jordan Chappelle and Emily Thompson, brings back Maddie Ryan and Emily Paddock. The Minders girls, big losses for Coach Anderson and Heidi Miller, although she did miss a lot of time last year. She was a staple of that program, so it's going to be a little bit of a new look Minders team this year. Gretchen Perrine is a sophomore running the point. She kind of emerged last year as a freshman. And wait a second, freshman, 8th grader? I think she's a sophomore this year. Gretchen's a sophomore? No, she was an 8th grader last year. I think she's a freshman this year. Anyways, Gretchen is a great athlete, a little undersized, but she's going to be key to Coach Anderson's success. Seniors on this team, Mary Dole, Hannah Capaci, Maddie Barnett, Sarah Kohlberger. It's going to be their team. So a lot of question marks there. Minders in the past has had so-so regular seasons and then done well in sectionals. Always contenders. Let's put it that way. So we'll look forward to seeing the Lady Blue Devils on the court. Coach Karen Mewison's Gananda girls are always good. Peyton Daffler, Emma Drake, Ashley Crum's just a sophomore. Ashley Crum, remember that name. The Lyons girls under Coach Kristen Bassett bring back Mara Briggs and Riley DeCola, Caden Credo, Caitlin McDonald, Latavia Blaisdell. The Lions girls should be better than they've been with this group. So we'll have to keep an eye out on them. And the Sodas girls have Coach Matt Miller's got a girl named Fatima Finley. Prolific scorer. She's going to put up huge numbers. Whether that translates into wins, we'll have to wait and see. And then there's other teams. North Rose Wolcott, Quentin Norris, younger brother of Tyler Norris. The Mid Lakes boys with Devin Hicks in his senior year. The Newark girls, Justin Fladd loses Ladonia Smith. We'll see what they bring back. The Wayne girls are always a powerful force in the East. The Palmac boys, Coach Pat Nolan, an amazing coach. Just look at last year. They went 11-9 lost a lot behind Logan Amelia. They lose him this year, though. Penyan girls, Coach Katrina Davenport will lean on Jenna Kerbeau. South Seneca boys, 10-11 last year. Pretty good bounce back. They do lose a lot of size, though. Anthony Reff and Matt Kenyon will be back. Red Creek boys return Dan Smith and Jack Smith. Dan's a senior, Jack's a sophomore. The Romulus boys and girls. On the girls' side, Damon Nicholson loses Mary Ellen Gueri and Emma Voorhees. On the boys' side, Joe Peisnack tries to build this program, struggles for numbers. See how Romulus does this year. The HAC girls have been solid lately. Zoe Crago, Amelia Gugino is a super young team there with those two juniors. See if they can do anything. The Bloomfield girls, Coach Mike Shunk had a great season last year, but loses Braylon Scott and Amelia Poole. Jesse Sheehan's a name you might remember who will be back for them. The Clyde-Savannah girls with a new head coach and Steve Dunn will lean on Taylor Sharp and Caitlin Bloomer. And the East Rochester girls, how's this for a name? Zoe Zoots. It's her 4th year on varsity. She's just a sophomore. So I wish I had more information on classifications for you guys, but it's tough. One of the big changes this year is that we don't have any the website for Section 5 is in turmoil. Phil Abel's not doing it anymore. Longtime Section 5 chair Jack Perfecado is retired. There's going to be a lot of changes this year. It might be a struggle to cover. It's not for just us at Finger Lakes One, but for all local media. We really leaned on that website last year and the great job that Phil Abel did. So we're going to have to see what they come up with, but it's got me a little nervous. Okay, so with that being said, we're probably going to go over an hour here because I got more stuff to get to. And it's time for our preseason power rankings here, and we're going to start with the girls. And we're going to start with the girls. There we go. So there you go. There's your first look at the preseason power rankings. You got Naples coming in at 10. There's Izzy Wilbur burying a half-court shot. Red Creek Rams come in at number 9. Oh, there's Izzy again, another half-court shot. Man, it's amazing. It's amazing. And there's Katie Smythe for Pelmac, burying one. They come in at 8. Waterloo Indians come in at 7. And there you see Mary Dole coming out for the Minders Blue Devils. They are in 6th. There's Coach Jerry Anderson talking to last year's squad. Newark Reds up at 5th, followed by the Red Jacket Indians at 4th. There's Sarah Van Aken. Talked about her earlier. Geneva Girls at 3, and there's Coach Heather Mott of the South Seneca Falcons, once again highly ranked at 2 to start the season. And there's that play that I was telling you about earlier of Logan Shawless passing to Jenna McDonald, and there's Jenna McDonald burying a 3, and here's Jenna McDonald driving to the basket and finishing. Love the Lady Falcons. And then, of course, there's Jade Parsons with a nice post move against Red Jacket in the finals last year. And here's Elena Forbes for Mid-Lakes, our top-ranked team in the power rankings. Going to be a lot of fun to watch the Mid-Lakes girls this year, without a doubt. And here comes Forbes, let one go from 3. And watch this play from Forbes, this next one. With the steal. Behind the back, Kara Walker with the finish. Man, they're a fun team to watch. And there they are capturing their first sectional title in several years. So there's your girls. How about the boys? Jump right into the boys? Let's do it. And if you make the power rankings, generally we think you're sectional contenders. So let's see what we got here on the boys side of things for the power rankings start the year. Coming in at number 10. Hey, it's the Bloomfield Bombers. Why not? I told you how many juniors they're bringing back for Coach John Maston. So Bloomfield comes in at, there's Tanner Kimball with a take against Lyons that might have been 2 years ago. They might have been as a sophomore. And then coming in at number 9. It's the Penn Yan Mustangs. What? Is that crazy? Well, you know what? I mentioned how good their JV team was. And Finger Lake, our power rankings for the boys has traditionally been loaded with Finger Lakes East teams. Maybe a couple drop out as the season goes on and these guys start playing each other. But number 8, hey, it's the Marcus Whitman Wildcats, Finger Lakes West defending champs. There's John Donovan with a nice give and go and getting it back. Here's Donovan again against Bloomfield, going coast to coast. And here's Aiden Royston, I believe, taking it against North Star Christian to the hole. Coming in at number 7, hey, it's Gananda, Jaden Castrosini. He's got the basketball right now on your screen, going coast to coast. Great athlete. They're a little undersized, but I know that they've got plans this year to play spoiler in Wayne County. There was Cole Wright burying a 3. And coming in at 6, it's the Minders Blue Devils. Again, a lot of questions to remain, but Darren Miller, there he is. Could be fantastic this season. There's a little high-low hoss to Miller. Miller finishing. And watch Miller throw this one down off of 2 feet. Yeah. They'll go as Miller goes. There he is making like a point guard against Clyde last year at the chiropractic college. Coming in at 5th. Hey, it's the Newark Reds. The Newark Reds are going to be surprisingly good this year after that disappointing season. There's Jaden Peters. I mentioned Mason Vandemortel. Peters buries a 3. Here Peters going to bury another baseline jumper. I like Newark this year. I think they're overlooked due to what happened last year. So they come in at 5. Coming in at 4? What? The Waterloo Indian boys? Yeah, Derek Toluca should dominate this year. And that should be enough to keep Waterloo well inside the top 10 here on Finger Lakes 1. There he is working against Justice Smith. And then coming in at number 3, the Geneva Panthers. Reed Patchett throwing it down for Brian Miller's squad. He's been building towards this group. Not having Akeem Hudson's a big loss, but there's Patchett with a block. And here's Patchett going to work on the low post against Weedsport last year in Waterloo. And then coming in at number 2, who's it going to be? Hey, the Lyons, you're defending sectional titles. New coach, but same players, Justice Smith. I can't wait to see the numbers he puts up this year. Here's with a little scoop. There he is with a block of Derek Chance. A little high-low to Bad Company, Benji Kemp. There's his brother Tootie Smith hanging in there going, and here's David Weaver burying a 3 from the corner. I mentioned that's a weird looking shot, but it goes in a lot. And number 1, it shouldn't be a surprise, right? There they are, the Wayne Eagles, heading into the season as our top ranked team. There's that was a Logan Plankenberg with a big shot in sectionals 2 years ago, and there he is taking it to the hole against Newark. High low to Nick Carmichael. Look at that drop step by Carmichael in last year's title game. And then, of course, Billy Thompson. And there's Logan Helgado. So, there you go. You got your Wayne Eagles, top spot in our power rankings, heading in to the new season. I guess I should probably show this to you on your screen. Wayne, Lyons, Geneva, Waterloo, Newark, Minders, Gananda, Whitman, Penn Yan, and Bluefield. Let me tell you something. All that's going to change. It's hard to do the power rankings this year. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of changes. I think you got the dominant teams of Wayne and Lyons on the boys' side, and then the dominant teams of Mid-Lakes and South Seneca girls on the girls' side. Then after that, it is wide open. It really is. There's been so much change due to graduation and coaching changes, and there's just a lot up in the air heading into this season. So that should be fun, okay? We think we know what's going to happen, but you never know what's going to happen. Kids at this age get so much better from year to year, or they don't. You know, the opportunity to work on your game in the off season and to play a lot of basketball now, whether it's AAU or just working on your individual games. You can see a lot of teams make big jumps based on that. So we do. It is going to be another outstanding year, and you're probably wondering what our plan is for live streaming this year on Finger Lakes 1. Well, we're not going to give you our entire schedule this year, and we are going to go over an hour here on this episode because I have a few more things to discuss with you. But we're going to announce our schedule for where we're going on this podcast every week. We'll probably give you about 2 weeks out, but we have scheduled our season for ourselves, and we've done our assignments with our cameramen and our producers and our announcers. But we're not going to share that with you because we want the ability to change it as we go based on what happens later in the season. We want to do important games or games that matter. So by not sharing our entire streaming schedule with you now, you won't be disappointed if we don't if we cancel one of your games that we planned on doing. So that's why we're doing it. So tune in every Sunday morning. This is a special Saturday edition. Most likely our podcast will be on Sunday mornings all winter long, and each week we will give you the upcoming games on our schedule. One new change too this year, Cicino's Pizzeria and Restaurant. They have locations in Waterloo, in Geneva, and Del Lago, in Tyre. They are on board sponsoring this year the Cicino's Player of the Game. So every game that we do, the player of the game will get a large cheese pizza courtesy of Cicino's. So we're excited to have them on board. So now we're going to tell you where we're going to be to start our season, okay? Our first webcast is going to be on Tuesday, November 27th at 7:30 at Clyde-Savannah. Miners Blue Devils at Clyde-Savannah. I'm calling the game. Kevin Sharp's going to be on color commentary. That's where we're starting it off. We're going to get Darren Preston on the sideline for Clyde. We're going to get our first look at Darren Miller of the year for Minders. We're going to see Cam Chance for Clyde. Always fun to do games from Clyde. That's where we're kicking it off. And then that following Saturday, it should be December 1st, we're doing a triple header in Waterloo. The first game at 4:15 is going to be Lyons versus Wilson. Now that's going to be a fun basketball game. Wilson coming off their Section 8 Sectional Championship loss in Class A2 last year. Lyons defending C2 champs. That's going to be a fun one in Waterloo to start the day. And then we got Geneva taking on Penfield. That's quite a test for Geneva early. That game's at 6. And then at 7:30, the host. This isn't a tournament. It's just a one-day exhibition. So the final game will be Waterloo against Greece Olympia. So we'll get 3 games. So that's all I'm telling you right now as far as our live streaming schedule will go for this year. Okay? We're not going to have an episode next week of the podcast. Then we're going to come back regularly every single week, 2 weeks from now. And that's when we will share where we're going to be as far as our live streaming schedule goes for the upcoming week or two. Also new this year, we really need your help. You're the ones that we can't go to all these games. There's so many games every night. We can't go to them all. We can't cover them all without your help. Send us your scores. Send us your photos. Send us your video clips. Send us your comments, your news. Email them to contact@fingerlakes1.com right there on your screen. Send a text to 315-651-7500. Take a picture of the scorebook at the end of the game and just text it to us or email it to us. We really need your help to do a good job covering this year, all the action. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you can call into the studio now through 866-315-FLX1. That's 3591 and extension 803 for the Upstate Hoops Podcast. You can call anytime during the week. Leave your message. You can report news that way as well. We may play back your comments on the air during the podcast. We hope it becomes a regular feature of the show. So please, please, please call 866-315-FLX1. That's 866-315-3591, extension 803. Leave your short message. It'll be like this. You'll dial those numbers, and then you'll say, okay, 803. Then you'll say, hey, this is Bill from North Rose. I want to know why you're not paying more attention to Quentin Norris. And then during the show, I'll play that back, and I'll tell you why. That's just an arbitrary thing. I'm paying attention to Quentin Norris. I'm interested to see what kind of season he has this year. But we want to make things more interactive. You can always tweet at us at FingerLakes1. We're pretty active on Twitter, and we are monitoring the world of Section 5 and Wayne Finger Lakes basketball in the Twitter sphere as well as part of our coverage. So there's lots of ways that you can help us out this year. And first and foremost, as I mentioned, would be to call in this season. Call in, get involved, be part of the show. And we're also creating an email address, scores@fingerlakes1.com, that you can send scores to. So whether it goes to contact at or scores at, we're still hashing things out. We're trying to get these reports directly from coaches and scorekeepers from all these games, because I'm really concerned that we're not going to have that great resource of that Section 5 website. We lost Mike Dozier's ScoreWire last year, and this year we're losing Phil Abel, who's done it for many years, done a great job managing that website. I'm really nervous about being able to provide the type of coverage that you've come to expect at FingerLakes1.com. So, well, that about does it. We did go over by about 5-6 minutes here, so don't like to do that, but boy, we had a lot to talk about this week, didn't we? I love it. I mean, if you woke up Friday morning and you didn't feel like it was basketball season with all that snow on the ground, it's quite a transition. But once we get into it, man, we roll right through the winter, straight through till February, Valentine's Day, sectional playoffs, into March, follow the teams to the state Final Four like we did for Mid-Lakes last year and South Seneca 2 years ago and Lyons before that. I love it. I hope you love it. And I hope you turn to fingerlakes1.com all season long. And again, subscribe to our show on YouTube, on iTunes, on Stitcher.com. Check out the RSS. Our show archives are at fingerlakes1.tv. You can also find out the call-in information on fingerlakes1.tv. Just click on call in, and all that information will be there. So, thanks for joining us on the Upstate Hoops Podcast here on fingerlakes1.com. Connect with us on Twitter at fingerlakes1. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Our audio-only podcast is available on iTunes and Stitcher. Archive episodes at fingerlakes1.tv, and this podcast airs weekly on Finger Lakes TV Spectrum Channel 1304. You can also find our show, live stream games, and local news, weather, and sports 24/7 on the free fingerlakes1.com Android or iPhone app. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing a lot of each other this winter out on the gyms and in the gyms of the Wayne Finger Lakes. Have a good weekend, everybody.